Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Louise Crooks, also known as the Keys to Clarity Coach. Welcome to Keys to Clarity Radio, which is hosting social media for Solopreneurs Mini Summit. And Solopreneurs is spelled S-O-U-L because that's who we serve on this radio show. Keys to Clarity Radio was born almost 5 years ago with the intention of providing great information to help soul-driven business owners to grow their businesses and reach and help more people in the world. This intention has a holistic intent, so we focus not just on business growth but spiritual and personal growth too. We've been blessed by many amazing speakers, the likes of Ali Brown, Michael Lozier, Michael Port, Mary Allen, and many others. So feel free to explore the archives after this fabulous interview we have coming up. I'm your host, Louise Crooks, as I mentioned, also known as the Keys to Clarity Coach. It's my passion to support heart-centered entrepreneurs like holistic practitioners, healers, and coaches to create visibility and find and connect your ideal client with your ideal clients so you and the world can prosper. Today, we are starting our series of the Social Media for Solopreneurs Mini Summit. And this is a series of 7 interviews with social media experts, all focusing on their specific area of interest. We're covering Facebook, Twitter, Groupon, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and YouTube, as well as having a 5-step strategy call with yours truly on the last day and getting all your questions answered. I hope you're as excited about this as I am. It's already been fun. We've had our first call already today with Michelle Sism talking about how to use Facebook fan pages effectively. So that's been really awesome. And if you are listening in through the radio platform, feel free to sign up on the opt-in page so you get the recording and her gift. If you wanted to listen to that, you can go to keys2clarity.com/summit, keys2clarity.com/summit, and you'll be able to get the recording in your inbox as well as access to her gift. All the calls will be available as recordings if you're not able to listen to the whole call or not available to listen to one of the upcoming calls. So each recording is available for 24 hours after the call. And if you'd like to have these sent to your inbox after the interview is completed, then go ahead and sign up at keys2clarity.com/summit. If you're already signed up, excellent. It will be coming to you anyway. And another reason to sign up is that, as I mentioned with Michelle's gift, all our speakers have shared fabulous gifts really generously, so don't miss out on those. And if you know for sure that you're not going to have time to listen to all the calls, there's some that you really want to listen to, then feel free to go to the upgrade link to our package of recordings, transcripts, and more. It means you can take your time going through the information at your own leisure, take notes, and start implementing. So I really recommend that. And if you'd like to check that out and see if it's right for you, then go to keys2clarity.com. That's keys2clarity.com/summit/upgrade. Okay, so keys2clarity.com/summit/upgrade. I encourage everyone to tweet about the information you're hearing, so go ahead and do that with the hashtag SMSM, which is short for Social Media for Solopreneurs Mini, SMSM, and how appropriate that you would be tweeting, seeing as we are about to do a call on Twitter. There is also a chat room for us to connect in during the calls. If you're listening via the web, you'll see the chat room come up automatically at the bottom of your screen. You might need to scroll down to see it. If you'd like to post in the chat room, please do that and pop over to blogtalkradio.com first and register with a username and then pop back. It's very easy to do. And then you'll be able to post comments and questions in the chat room. You won't be able to do that otherwise, so just make sure that you do get you register a username to be able to get your opportunity to connect in the chat room. I encourage everyone in there to post their questions in the chat and use the question mark when you do, so it helps me to decipher which posts are the actual questions. And if you find the chat room is a distraction, which it can be, and I've had that experience myself because I tend to be a bit of a connector, feel free to choose not to participate there and give yourself permission to focus fully on the wonderful information being delivered by our guest today. If you're not listening via the web but have access to Facebook, go ahead and post your comments on the Keys to Clarity fan page by going to facebook.com/Keys to Clarity. Each call will last about 70 minutes, so get your notebook out, your pen and paper ready, your water or your hot drink, and create a nice quiet space for yourself. And without further ado, let's get started. So our second call today, our second call of the mini-summit is tweeting your way to a large following. And with our special guest and expert, Tom Corson-Knowles. And he is a fabulous health coach and nutrition expert. And not only that, has become an amazing Twitter expert through his ability to have built a massive following. 43,000 people, I think, he now has on his one Twitter handle. So it's just awesome to see that. So welcome, Tom.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Louise. It's a pleasure to be here.
Ah, great. It's so wonderful to have you here, Tom, especially seeing as we're going to be talking about such juicy stuff today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, well, let me tell everyone a little bit about you, Tom, and then we can jump right into the call. So just to give you a little bit more background to Tom, he started his first business at the age of 13. Wow. Manufacturing SAD lamps with his father out of the garage. Just shows your focus on the, the sort of healing world as well, Tom. And I know your parents, I think, are doctors, aren't they? So that makes sense.
Right.
And since then, he's started several successful businesses using creative marketing strategies. He is the international best-selling author of How to Make Money with Twitter and Facebook for Business Owners, amongst others. Tom is a social media marketing consultant and helps entrepreneurs leverage the power of the Internet to grow their businesses online. He's an avid blogger and social media marketing expert who helps entrepreneurs get more traffic and sales online. And he's also the founder of blogbusinessschool.com, a premier free training academy for bloggers and entrepreneurs who want to learn how to grow a business through blogging. So you can have a look at that at blogbusinessschool.com. And Tom, do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself in regards to the health coaching piece? Just love to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, sure, yeah. When I was 13 years old, I was sick all the time. I had really bad acne. I had bronchitis, sinus infections. And like you mentioned, both my parents are medical doctors, so, what they needed to do is prescribe me antibiotics and medications, and it wasn't helping. Things just were going downhill pretty fast. And, long story short, my mom made me start taking this supplement, fruits and vegetables and capsules. And I started changing my diet, started eating more salads. I stopped my addiction to soda pop, and everything just changed really rapidly, and my health turned around really, really quickly. And then when I was in school, about 6 years later in college when I was 19, I saw my classmates and people in my dorm who were sick all the time like I had been, and I wasn't sick anymore, and my heart went out to them. I thought, gosh, I really want to help people get healthier because, I can't imagine what my life would be like if I was still taking antibiotics all the time and if I was still sick all the time. So that kind of became my purpose and my passion in life at that time. So I started a business to help people get healthier. And that was really my first, major business. I mean, the sad lamps at 13, that was more like, a fun thing. It wasn't really something that I did, as diligently as a business person should. It was more like a hobby that I happened to be making a little bit of money at. But I had so much fun in that business, helping people get healthier. And I started studying, marketing, and that just became my passion from there, both health and marketing. And I was reading books all the time. I was in business school, but I didn't really feel like they were giving me the education I wanted, so I started going out to the bookstores and Amazon.com, and I would order like 5 new marketing books a week and just read everything I could to figure out how I could help more people get healthier. And that was my whole purpose back then. And so that kind of led me to, Twitter and social media and all these things that are going on today because, the internet and social media is the future of marketing. I mean, it sounds cliche for sure, and maybe it is, but, if you look at, shopping trends, like Cyber Monday now is almost just as big as Black Friday. I mean, people buy just almost as much online, maybe even more now than they do in retail stores. And so shopping is going online. Relationships are going online. You go out to, a bus stop or the mall, anywhere in public, and everyone's got their smartphones out. They're tweeting and texting and Facebooking rather than talking to people around them. So, if you're a business owner and you want to, be kind of ahead of the curve or be where your customers are, which I think is the most important part of business is to be where your customers are, then you've got to be online, you've got to be on social media, and Twitter is, a great way to do that. Yeah,
awesome. Well, I'm just thrilled because I think it's such a beautiful, as my mentor would call it, a peanut butter cup, bringing the chocolate to the peanut butter and vice versa, and that a lot of our audience are holistic practitioners and healers and coaches, and at the same time they really want to learn what it is that you did in your business. And, it's just wonderful that you're able to speak to the heart of their needs because of your own background, Tom. So it's thrilling from that standpoint.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite thing to do is to teach other, health professionals, nutrition experts, chiropractors, doctors, whoever, how do you get your message out there in a bigger way and really help more people? Because, you could be, the smartest nutritionist in the whole world, but, if people don't know who you are and you can't reach people with your message, then you can't have a big impact.
Right.
And someone with a lot less knowledge than you who has more of those marketing skills can really have even a bigger impact. And so that's what I learned early on is that I don't need to go and become the best person in the world in nutrition. I mean, it's not to say that I should not know anything about it, but, if I can have more of an impact by learning, how to leverage my knowledge and how to educate more people.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I love teaching entrepreneurs because, I think most people these days are waking up to entrepreneurship. They realize, it's not just about the money. It's about making a difference.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest values in life and why I got so passionate about this early on because I wanted to make a difference and help more people.
Yeah.
And it's been so much fun to be able to do that with Twitter and Facebook and social media because you can reach more people than I ever imagined. Before social media, it was very difficult to do that.
It's quite amazing, isn't it? I was at a talk recently, last week in fact, with Deepak Chopra, and he specifically said what an amazing opportunity we have with these platforms like Twitter and Facebook and the like, to really create a shift of consciousness and awakening. And, it's the same with us heart-centered business owners who really want to, put a powerful message out there about our own healing and our health and all of those things that we really want to do. If we have something powerful and we want to make a difference, we have the opportunity to really use these platforms in a really powerful way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I am with you on that. Totally, Tom. Beautiful. Well, I'd love for us to jump in and start sharing some juicy details about Twitter. We have a mixed audience. Some people are just really starting out, and some people have been using it but want to tweak what they're doing. I think the majority are in the first group of people, so but we'll give them some nice juicy tidbits. I'd love to ask you, Tom, if someone who's not using Twitter yet, why should they consider it for marketing, especially as a service-based business? A lot of those businesses out there are service-based, in this kind of genre with healing and coaching, although, of course, a lot of people are creating programs and products. But, from that perspective, how is it going to be helpful to them?
Mm-hmm. Sure, absolutely. Well, with a service-based business, it's so important that you understand that your marketing has to be primarily educational because, especially if you're someone who's unknown to your audience, you have to kind of educate the prospect or the customer, why are they going to spend $1,000 on coaching with you, or why are they going to spend, $100 for an appointment or a checkup with you? They're not going to do it unless they understand the benefit of it. because a service is not as concrete as a product. I mean, if someone goes into a shop and they see, a supplement or they see, a bike, they kind of know what that product, they can touch the product, they can feel it, but you can't really do that with the same thing with a service. So you have to educate your customers, and you have to educate a lot of customers to get, or a lot of prospects in order to get a customer. So, you might talk to, like if you go to a networking event, you might talk to 100 people in that room and share with them about your service, and maybe only 1 or 2 sign up. So that's not a big conversion ratio, 1 or 2%, and it's kind of similar online as well. 1 or 2% is going to kind of be your conversion generally for most businesses. So if you look at that, that's kind of a big numbers game. And the great thing about Twitter and social media is that you can reach a lot of people in a very short period of time. So you kind of increase that numbers game. And the other thing that's really powerful about Twitter is that you can educate people constantly. It's kind of like drip marketing. So if someone becomes your follower on Twitter, they don't just see one message from you. They see messages from you every time they log in, every time they check out your profile. So they can kind of get that consistent marketing going, that consistent education going. And studies have shown that, most customers do not buy a product or a service until about 5 to 7 exposures. So that means, you've got to have 5 to 7 ways to connect with someone. And if that's, something you're doing one-on-one at a networking event, that means you've got to go to 7 networking events. And if they're only once a month, it's going to take 7 months to turn someone into a customer. That's a really long time period. But with Twitter, you can make that so much faster. It could be 7 days. Or it could be even 1 day, because maybe they go onto Twitter and they see your tweet and they get really excited about that, and then they see a link to your blog and they go to your blog and they read your article and they get excited about that, and then they sign up on your email list and they get your email and they get excited about that, and then they see a video of you and they get excited about that. So in 1 day, you can have kind of 5 to 7 marketing touches in 1 day, and it can all start from Twitter.
Yes. Wow.
So my philosophy with kind of social media and the way I do online marketing is that, it's not just about Twitter. A lot of people out there who are online marketers, they sell these products and programs, and they promise things like, oh, it's the one-button push system that all you ever need, to market your business. Just, do this on Twitter, and that's all you ever need, 2 hours a day on Twitter, and you don't need anything else, and your business is going to grow and boom. And in my experience, it doesn't work that way. The way I use Twitter is I integrate it with all the other things that I do. I use Facebook, I use LinkedIn, I use YouTube, I use blogging, I use videos, I write books. And all of these things online work together in synergy. So if you're just doing one of them, you're not going to get nearly the same results. They kind of work together synergistically. It's actually kind of like nutrition. Like the vitamins, the nutrients, and fruits and vegetables, they work together synergistically. And, if you just have 1 or 2 nutrients or just 1 or 2, things that you're doing online, it's not going to work as well as if you use it all together.
Right. That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective, Tom. I hadn't really thought of it that way, but it makes sense, It makes a lot of sense to be embracing a number of platforms that work for you and for your clients, and then to be able to use them together. And I'm certainly doing that in my business, but the way that you framed it is really interesting. I love the analogy with the vitamins and the vegetables and fruits kind of thing. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So, a lot of people are seeing interesting kinds of conversations on Twitter, and they're probably wondering, well, should I be posting that I had a bagel for breakfast, kind of thing, rather than, marketing my business? What should they be posting on there that's going to be helpful to them?
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people, and me especially, when I first heard about Twitter, I was in college, and I was working my business, the health coaching and nutrition, and people told me about Twitter, and I was like, that's just a fad. I mean, Facebook is everyone knew. Back then, Facebook was a big thing in college, and I was like, Twitter, that's ridiculous. Who would ever want to, only 140 characters? You can't even write anything meaningful in that length. And so I ignored it for several months, and then finally, so many people were inviting me to Twitter. I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I got on Twitter, and I noticed that that's kind of a lot of what was going on. People were talking about what they ate for breakfast and, random things. And I was like, I don't want to post, every day and get on my phone and tell people what I ate for breakfast and, ooh, I just went to the gym and, hey, I'm watching a TV show now. Like, that's not exciting to me. And it certainly wasn't exciting to me from a marketing standpoint for my business. I didn't see any potential there at all. But, several months later, I met some people who were doing really, really amazing things on Twitter, and they were saying, it changed their business very rapidly. They were having so many new customers and clients, and I asked them, how are you doing this? And I started studying. And I learned that, there's a lot of different ways people use Twitter or social media or any website, and it's kind of like a vehicle. Twitter is a vehicle for you to do whatever you want to do with it. So some people use a vehicle for business, like with your car. Some people just go to work, they drive to work, they want to make money. Some people, they want to have fun, so they drive really, really fast, and they want to have fun. Those are the people on Twitter that, they just want to talk to everyone and have conversations and talk about their day and how everyone's doing and what they ate for breakfast. And, there's other people who kind of want to network, and there's other people who just kind of want to watch and read other people. So there's all kinds of ways that you can use Twitter. And, honestly, I'm not in love with Twitter. I'm not like one of those people who thinks, Twitter's the best thing in the world and you have to be on it. And you should be spending 5 hours a day on Twitter.
Yeah.
And, every single time you get a message on Twitter, you got to respond right away. That's not at all me. I tried that method, and it was just, so overwhelming. I was spending hours a day on Twitter and not getting the results I really wanted. And I was like, hey, I've got to step back and find a better way because that's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I think in anything you're doing with marketing, it's got to be sustainable.
Yeah, and you've got to be enjoying yourself as well. You've got to be enjoying what you're doing.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how did you
enjoy it.
How did you shift from that, and what did you start doing then, Tom? Because obviously you have had really great success with Twitter and have created this enormous following of 43,000 people. And, so I'd love to hear what your approach has been. I'm sure everyone else listening would too, just to get a sense of what that was. And, maybe we can then talk about it from the point of view of, folks who are wanting to get started and feeling a bit challenged with it, and we can go from there. But I'd love to get some insights from you, if that's how you're feeling and didn't want to be doing 2 hours a day, which I'm sure many of our listeners are thinking and feeling as well. Please do reveal your secrets.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So there's one big shift I made, and it was just a shift in mindset, but it made a huge world of difference for me. And that's this concept of weak ties and strong ties. So there's this great book. It's called The Power of Habits. And in one part of the book, one small section, it talks about weak ties and strong ties. It's about social relationships. And so what I find a lot of people try to do on Twitter that doesn't work to build a strong business is they try to build strong relationships with every single follower. So if someone messages you, they ask you a question, you answer, and you try to be as helpful as possible, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when all day long you're just responding to questions and comments on Twitter, and you're just constantly talking, you're spending all your time doing that, and you're interacting with basically random people who just happen to find you, the problem with that is you don't know where that relationship is going to take you. Maybe that person becomes a customer, maybe not. Maybe they just want to suck all your time, and they're never going to buy from you, and maybe they do buy from you. I don't know. But what I've found is that if you focus on building strong relationships with the influencers in your industry, the people who most people would consider your competitors, people like you, Louise, we both do social media marketing. But that, so most people say, oh, well, we're competitors, we can't work together. Well, I don't think that philosophy makes sense at all, especially nowadays. We can do much more together, and that's why we're doing this call for everyone. So we can accomplish so much more together and help more people. And so what I started doing is I started focusing on building relationships with the influencers in my industry, the health coaches, the nutritionists, the doctors, the professionals in my industry. And I started spending almost all of my time trying to connect with those people rather than just trying to basically appease the multitudes and help everyone out there, because you can't help everyone. If you just cannot help every single person out there, and especially when you have a big following, you just can't answer every single question and help everyone out there. So I found that focusing on the people that can kind of get me in front of a group of bigger people that can spread my message farther, that was the best way for me to use my time effectively on social media. And so with Twitter, the really cool thing about it is if you have an account right now, you can log in and you can use Twitter search to find people who are in your field, that you can find what we would call competitors or collaborators, people you can work with, people who are experts in the industry, and you can contact them. You can contact celebrities. I mean, I know people who have tweeted Kim Kardashian or some other celebrities and had them respond to them. And that's the really cool thing about Twitter is that unlike Facebook, you can talk to anyone on Twitter, and a lot of times they'll respond to you. Not all the time, but I guarantee you that if you tweet to, 25 experts in your field, your industry, you'll get at least 5 of those people who will respond to you and allow you to build a relationship with them. So imagine if instead of logging onto Twitter every single day and trying to sell every one of your followers on your product, instead of doing that, what if you just spent 15 minutes trying to connect with the top 15 people in your industry?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big mindset for me.
So can you follow that thought through a little bit more, Tom, in what would be the outcome of, you said getting in front of groups, but how does that relate to Twitter?
Right. So Twitter for me and everything I do in marketing is all about relationships.
Yes.
And one of my mentors early on in business, he said that long-term relationships will lead to long-term success in business.
Mm-hmm.
And that made so much sense to me. And when you apply it to Twitter, if you build a long-term relationship with the experts in your industry, then there's a lot of things that you can do. Joint marketing efforts, collaborating, sending each other referrals. When I went to networking groups, people would do trainings on how to be a good networker. And what they said was, instead of trying to sell everyone in that room on your product and service, it's better if you just find 1 or 2 people in that room who you can work with long-term and send each other referrals every week long-term.
Yeah.
And he said if you do that, you'll make 10 times as much business.
Yeah.
And you won't be wasting as much time, and you won't be turning as many people off by trying to sell everyone.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense.
And it's the same thing with Twitter. That's what I do on Twitter. I try to connect with people who I can build long-term relationships with, who are influencers, people who have books, people who have blogs, people who are doing summits, people who are out there spreading the message that's either the same message I have or a similar message where we can work together. So maybe someone's in fitness, they don't really talk about nutrition, but they talk about fitness. Well, we could work together.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. I think you've hit on something really powerful there, Tom. I'm so glad that you shared that with us. It's connecting with people who already have a big following already, and being able to connect with them, build relationships with them, so that their people will end up working with you in some way. How did that result, though, in 43,000 followers? How do you translate the relationship building with that number of followers? How does that literally translate?
Well, I mean, just for some stories of other people, I know some people have had a retweet. Some businesses have had I can't remember the guy's name right now, but some big celebrity retweet him, and all of a sudden their business explodes overnight because you have a celebrity who all of a sudden you get lucky and they retweet you. Well, it's kind of that's kind of how it works, except instead of having really big celebrities retweet me, I just have people in my field who are experts. Maybe they have 1,000 followers or 5,000 followers or 40,000 followers, but they retweet me, and we work together, we collaborate together, we do projects together, and the followers build over time. But, like I said before, I don't just do Twitter.
Yeah.
And so there's other ways I get Twitter followers. So on my blog, I have Twitter buttons on all my blog posts and on the sidebar of my blog. So people, if they read my blog, they can follow me there. When I'm on Pinterest or when I'm on LinkedIn, I talk about, sometimes I have links to my Twitter profile on there. So people can find me from other places. If they're on YouTube in my videos, there's a link to my Twitter account. So there's all kinds of ways that people find you.
Yeah.
But I think it's really about building momentum. And I don't think you should focus just on the number of followers.
Yes.
But like I said, on the relationships with the influencers, because even if you only have followers on Twitter, but if you have 100 relationships with amazing people in your industry, then you're going to get great results in your business, even if it doesn't translate just to Twitter success. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm sure it does to our listeners too. It's that quality, isn't it, versus quantity.
Exactly. And so, I mean, to answer your question, I've tried everything under the sun with Twitter. I've tried every piece of software, and I've read every book I could get my hands on, and all these, Hootsuite and all these great third-party apps I've been using. But it takes time. I've been on Twitter for 5 years now, I think, something like that. So it takes time to build up that following.
Yeah.
But when you focus on the right things,
yes.
Then I think it's just going to work out really great for you. And you should measure your success not just in your number of followers, but, and how many new relationships are you building, and how good are those relationships? So
what I'm hearing as well there, Tom, is that it's about doing it strategically. So, And I guess that's where you were able to do, focus on your Twitter relationship building in 15 minutes a day rather than 2 hours a day, when you started to do things more strategically and in a more focused way. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's going to save you a lot of time, and you're going to get more results because you're not focusing on low payoff activities. I did network marketing and direct sales, and I still do. And one of the first things they teach in that business is, focus on the high-paying activities. And on Twitter, the high-paying activities is building relationships with people who can really help your business. And the low-payoff activities are things like, answering questions and, just posting every 5 minutes. And it's not to say you shouldn't do those activities, but you shouldn't just focus solely on those activities. And a lot of people, what they do is they focus solely on low-paying activities, and they don't even understand that these high-paying activities exist. And so what I've kind of...
Sorry, go ahead, Tom. I'll ask you after you've finished.
Yeah, so what I've kind of done is I've kind of have a system now where a lot of those low-paying activities, like posting tweets every day, where I don't have to spend a lot of time doing that. So I have 3 things that I do. I either automate, I delegate, or I syndicate content on Twitter. So, for instance, automation. So there's some great software programs like TweetAdder is one of the ones that I use, and it automatically adds followers for me. It starts following people in my niche, people in nutrition or health or wellness. And also, what I can do is I can write 100 tweets ahead of time, so I can spend 1 hour or 2 hours writing 100 tweets, and then it sends those out over the next several weeks. And so I can just do all that work at once writing those tweets, and it goes out over time. That saves me a ton of time because I used to spend 30 minutes a day logging in, or I'd be on my cell phone when I'm eating lunch logging in and trying to tweet things. And I found that if I could just do it all at once and automate a lot of that, it took a lot of time away from that busy work.
Sure. Absolutely.
And then the second part is delegating. So you can automate part of it, but some things you have to delegate. So like answering questions, maybe you've got, and if you're an entrepreneur and you've got employees, maybe you could have someone in your firm do a lot of the answering questions and connecting with people on Twitter for you. If you're a solopreneur, like I am, maybe you have a virtual assistant. And maybe not. Maybe you have a mix and match kind of thing. Or maybe you can use, there are like monitoring services on Twitter. Some of them are free that will actually send you an update once a day and say, hey, these people messaged you on Twitter. Why don't you try to respond to them? So there's ways that you can kind of get this information in a much easier way rather than logging into Twitter every 30 minutes. And I found that that's kind of the thing about Twitter and social media, Facebook especially. A lot of people, it's like a time suck. They spend so much time, logging in and checking stats and responding to messages that, before they know it, they've been on it for an hour and they really haven't got much work done.
Yeah. I think you're probably speaking for a lot of people on this, listening to this call. Absolutely, because it's such a common thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, as much as you can automate, as much as you can delegate, and the last one is syndicate. And syndicate's the easiest and it's the most cool because you just set it up once and then you never think about it again. So, for instance, I do a lot on my Facebook fan page, and I post probably 3 posts a day on Facebook. So what I did is I set up a syndication so that every time I post to Facebook, it automatically tweets on my Twitter account for me. So once I set it up, I don't ever have to think about it again. And
awesome.
There's a couple different services you can use for that. I think one is If This Then That. It's ifttt.com. That's a good service to syndicate. So I don't just use it with Twitter and Facebook. I use it with, YouTube. Every time I post a video, it goes out to Twitter. Pinterest. Every time, actually, Pinterest has a button when you post an image on Pinterest. It has a little check mark that says, "Do you want to tweet this?" I always tweet everything I post on Pinterest. LinkedIn, same way. Every time you post a status update on LinkedIn, it automatically goes to Twitter if you press that button. So when you kind of syndicate these things, let's say if someone on this call is already doing Facebook, but they're not doing Twitter yet, then the easiest thing you can do is just syndicate everything you do on Facebook to Twitter. And you're already taking advantage of the habits you already have, and you're already creating content that's valuable for your followers, then it's just going to make it a lot easier to transfer that knowledge and get more followers on Twitter and to get more done in less time.
Awesome. So just a quick question about the syndicate piece. I missed the the spelling of that particular platform that you use. I'm sure others might have as well. Can you just slowly repeat that, Tom? If then that, something like that.
It's IFTTT.com. It stands for If This, Then That.
Okay.
And it's a syndication service for kind of hundreds of websites out there and a lot of social media sites. And you can kind of search for, basically has formulas there. So every time you post something on your blog, it can go to Twitter and all kinds of really cool things you can do with it.
Awesome. Is that similar to Hootsuite?
It's similar. So Hootsuite is mostly just for Twitter, and it's really different. See, If This and That is really like automation rules. So if anyone's like a programmer or does Excel programming, stuff like that, it basically says, if you've got some kind of website out there where something happens, then it triggers a separate activity. So it sounds kind of complex, but when you go on there, you'll see the formulas, and it does kind of make sense when you go in there.
I use socialoomph.com, but I think that's also more focused on setting up tweets, pre-scheduled tweets. So
yeah, exactly.
But it would be nice to have a platform that could do TweetDeck. Is that again also focused more on tweets?
Yeah, TweetDeck is great. It's really much just for Twitter. And I like to use TweetDeck for checking mentions or checking my inbox, the direct messages on Twitter. That's what I think it's best for. It's a lot easier than logging into Twitter itself. So actually a study recently I read is over 60 or 70% of Twitter users actually don't even log into Twitter when they use it.
Yeah.
And because they're using these third-party services like Hootsuite or like TweetDeck, that basically allow you to check your messages, to post updates, to post tweets, to retweet people, to respond to messages, all kinds of everything you can do on Twitter you can do on there, and it's kind of a lot easier to do it because someone actually sat down and thought about, okay, how do we make this convenient for people rather than Twitter, which was just let's just build a platform, and they don't really change it because they gave all these developers basically the formula so the developers could customize Twitter to meet people's needs. And that's one of the reasons why Twitter grew so fast is because unlike Facebook, it was open platform, so people could develop all these really cool programs and things to make using Twitter a lot easier. Yeah.
That's awesome. I use a fun app called Twitter Later, which allows me to do a number of different things on Twitter that I can't do on Twitter itself. So it's kind of fun, but it doesn't. I don't think it allows you to pre-schedule. So it's just more of an instant tweeting, but has a lot of cool functions. So what I wanted to ask you, Tom, is there a balance between, and Tom, if you've got your laptop turned up, if you can turn the speakers down, I think there's an echo coming through. I don't know if that's because you've got the webinar going on in the background.
Okay, sure, I'll try to.
Thanks.
Is it better now?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great.
So what I wanted to ask you, is there a balance between all that automation and also being present on those platforms yourself and, commenting and having conversations with people? I know it's not always practical to be on there 24/7, and I definitely wouldn't suggest that to anyone, but I'd love to get your insight on that. Is there a balance between automation and, in-person connection?
Absolutely, yeah, there's definitely a balance for sure. And for me, I kind of lean more on the automation side because personally I've just found that I made so many mistakes when I was spending all my time on Twitter, and I really had to make a rule for myself. And that new rule that I made was I can't spend more than 15 minutes a day on Twitter. And that was the rule. And at first when I started the rule, it was so hard for me. But I knew I had to do it because I couldn't, I was so busy. I couldn't return a lot of the phone calls. I couldn't return a lot of emails from people. It was just too much. It was sucking up too much of my time. So I had to make that rule to protect myself and to protect my business. Yeah. And definitely there's sacrifices you make. I mean, if you don't respond to every message, some of your followers are going to get mad at you. Some people aren't going to like that you don't respond to them. You might miss some opportunities because you don't respond to people. But, I found for me it was a sacrifice worth making because there were just more important things that I had to be doing in my business. So, everyone's got to kind of strike that balance and see what works best for you. But I just know from my personal experience that's what worked best for me.
But did you find that, that didn't limit the ability to relationship build? by limiting your time on Twitter? Or do you think that when people are starting out that they do need to spend that bit of time doing that in-person stuff and then curtailing it, or do you think that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're brand new and you've never even tweeted before, I don't think it's a good idea to automate right away. And the reason is because you don't really know how it works yet. And so if you just start automating right away, you're probably going to end up sounding like a spammer, right, rather than someone who's like actually out there trying to make a difference, trying to help people. So I think it's with any new website or with any new platform that I work on, I always try to go there and kind of figure out how it works. And as much as I would love to, I can't really tell you on this call like everything you need to learn about Twitter, because some of it you just got to learn by doing it.
Right.
Some of it you just got to learn by trying it.
Yeah.
And so you've got to kind of go in there and start talking to people, start posting tweets, start trying to find people in your industry to connect with, and see what happens and see what the culture is like, because it's just every Twitter is different than Facebook, it's different than LinkedIn. You've got to kind of see what the culture is like there. And then once you feel like, okay, I've kind of got the hang of things, let me try to automate a little bit. Let me try to syndicate from Facebook to Twitter. Let me try to do a little bit at a time and just start moving yourself gradually in that direction. I think the mistake a lot of people make is they think, overnight I'm going to get this software, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get Hootsuite and schedule my posts, and, I never have to think about it again. It's not really how it works. It's a process, not a procedure, I like to say. And so it's going to take time to implement that process and to learn. There's a lot of learning you got to do on the job with Twitter, and like with anything else that you do.
Yeah. So if you were to be speaking to people who are kind of new to Twitter, what would you say their first aim is when they get on there?
Well, I think your first aim is go to twitter.com, sign up, get your free account, choose your handle, which is basically your name at Twitter. So it's going to be, like mine is JuiceTom, JuiceTom. It's just kind of like my nickname online. It's JuiceTom. Whatever yours is, maybe it's Heather10275. That's fine. Get that, and then you signed in, and you just start tweeting. So you get 140 characters, which is about 20 to 25 words. If you have a link in there in the tweet, it's about 15 to 20 words. And just start posting information that you care about. One of my mentors, Jim Rohn, has this really cool quote that I like. And he says, "Let others lead small lives, but not you. Let others argue over small things, but not you. Let others cry over small hurts, but not you. Let others leave their future in someone else's hands, but not you." And I really like that quote, and I really apply it to Twitter, because I don't want to be the person on Twitter who's whining about how bad my day is, or, talking about what I ate for breakfast, or, just mundane things like that. I mean, sometimes it's nice to just, be personal and connect with people in that way.
Yes.
But I'm on Twitter to inspire people. I'm on Twitter to educate people. I have a mission to go out there and share my message of how people can get healthier. And people are going to be attracted to you if it's obvious that you have some kind of mission, that you're trying to help people in some way.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not in health. Maybe you're in social media like you, Louise. Maybe you want to help entrepreneurs get their message out there. Whatever it is, if you have a mission behind what you're doing, it makes it a lot easier to do it. And so, the question is, what should you do if you're new? Well, if you have a mission, it's obvious. You go out there and you fulfill your mission. So if your mission is to go out there and help people get healthier, start writing tweets about, your top tips for health. What do you recommend people eat? What do you recommend people do? What challenges have you faced with your health and overcome, and how can you share that with people?
Yeah.
That's what I recommend you start doing, is just sharing from your heart. Listen to your heart, and what do you really want to share with people?
Yeah, beautiful, Tom. That's such great advice. Really powerful, because that's what's going to, draw people, the right people to you as well, if that's where your focus lies. So, focusing on what makes a difference to you and what you want to put out there into the world is a really powerful thing. I think, my sense is that there's a balance between putting some of your own personality into your social media communication, as well as the educational piece too. Tom, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, every person is unique and different, and in social media, you should be unique and different. You should be yourself. If you love quotes, I like a lot of quotes. I tweet a lot of quotes. Quotes that inspire me, things that probably don't even have anything to do with health, directly, but like things that inspire me to get up in the morning and to help people. And things that I enjoy, things that bring a smile to my face, pictures of cute dogs and stuff like that. One of the things I learned from this really successful online marketer, he said, people love cute, they love funny, and they love controversial. And so if you can share things that are cute, or controversial or funny, people are going to reshare them, and you're going to attract more followers that way because people just love to talk about that stuff.
That's for sure. I think it's and the quotes piece is just so popular. So it just seems like everyone just gets so inspired by quotes. So it makes sense that you would be doing that too, Tom. And yeah, it is all those things that you said are things that that pique our interest. The funny and the cute and the controversial. Definitely. It's certainly a way to make an impact, and also to polarize your following. I think that's a great way for people who like what you put out there to follow you, and the people that don't, won't, and that's a good thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and you're going to find polarization, if you're doing it right. And what that means is you're going to get people criticizing you. I've had people on Twitter use cuss words at me. And, at first I was like, oh, I'm so hurt. Like, why would someone say that? But,
yes.
One of my mentors told me that, if you're in business and you want to make a difference in the world, no matter what you do, if you're really out there helping a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of people who hate you and a lot of people who love you.
Yeah.
And so if you're not having people who criticize you and tell you you're stupid and tell you what you're doing is wrong, then you're not helping enough people. And so that's kind of how you have to look at it. When you know that you're getting successful and you're really making a big impact, when people start criticizing you and saying, you're doing it wrong and it should be done another way or something like that.
That's interesting. Yeah, interesting. Okay. So, Tom, I'd love to hear your 3 biggest mistakes that new Twitter users make when it comes to using Twitter.
Sure, yeah. There's actually 4. But
4.
3 is close. So first of all is just trying to sell. All you're trying to do is you're trying to sell people on your product. So every tweet is, a link, go buy my product here, buy my service here, sign up now, buy this, buy that. That doesn't work, and because a lot of people are just turned off by that because they don't have a relationship with you yet. And so remember, like we talked about the 5 to 7 marketing exposures you need with people to make a sale. Well, if all 5 of those exposures are the same message, and that same message is you need to buy my product now, then they stop listening.
Yeah.
But if your message is, okay, message number 1 is, a cool quote that doesn't really have anything to do with business, and message number 2 is, a new tip on how to get healthy, and number 3 is, I used to struggle with weight, and here's how I fixed that, and then number 4 is a cool blog post, and number 5 is a picture that's really nice, and number 6 is a video, and number 7 is, okay, buy now. Which strategy is going to make more sales? Obviously, the second strategy where it's a diverse message.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that your tweets aren't just all about selling, that they have education, inspiration, funny pictures, videos, whatever you want to put out there, just make it a mix. You don't want to just have one message. You want to share multiple messages because you're going to attract more people that way. So that's the biggest mistake people make. Another big mistake people make, actually the first mistake, is just not getting started at all. That's a mistake I made for several months. People told me about Twitter, and I said, that's stupid, that doesn't work, no one wants to do that, it's just a fad. Even people on this call, I'm sure there'll be people on this call who listen to it all the way through, and maybe they don't even get started because, some reason. But I'm telling you, if you just sign up, create an account, maybe it's just syndicate your Facebook post to Twitter, and that's all you do, then, at least you're farther ahead than you were before the call. At least you're making progress. And, it took me 2 or 3 years before what started as just, testing out Twitter into turning it into a business and a big piece of my marketing. And so it's okay if it takes time. It doesn't have to happen overnight, but just get started. That's the biggest thing.
So let's make that a challenge to everyone listening to this call, Tom, that if you're in that space, to really just get started, get yourself signed up and even if it's just posting 1 tweet a day, and then, linking your Facebook through your Twitter, as you said, could be such a great way to get started if you're not going to be spending a lot of time on there, but just to have that presence to start building your community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly,
awesome.
exactly. And you know what I thought why the reason I didn't start earlier is because I thought it was going to be a big commitment. You know, I thought, well, if I start, then I have to do, a certain amount of time every day or that kind of thing. And I realized that, all you have to do to start is just start. It takes 10 minutes to start, and what you do after that is your choice.
Yeah.
But if you never start in the first place, you don't even give yourself a chance to succeed.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's a common issue, isn't it? So many of us do get overwhelmed by what we think is going to be a big project, and it doesn't have to be. It's great to be able to familiarize yourself slowly, and then, if you want to step into it more fully, you can. Yeah,
Definitely.
great. So what's the next mistake then, Tom?
It's not developing a system. It's not having a strategy or a system for or a plan for your time that you're spending on Twitter. When I first started, I didn't have a system, and it's really hard. When you first start, like, how could you know how to have a system or how to have a plan, because you don't even know what it is really, right? So I'm hoping that this call and the ebook that I have to share with everyone for free will kind of help you get a system and a strategy in place for yourself. But it's really important that you do that because, and I really recommend you limit your time to 15 minutes a day or less. Just when you start, you can expand it if you want, and that's 15 minutes, though, is the 15 minutes of daily activity. So if you're doing a special promotion for your business, if you're really trying to connect with a lot of people in your industry, you might spend a little bit more time. But I'm talking about kind of the daily habit. Like, what's your daily habit? It should not be more than 15 minutes. Because if your daily habit becomes more than 15 minutes, it's going to suck up too much of your time, and you're not going to be able to do the things that you really need to do.
Really
so I really recommend setting that time limit and having that plan ahead of time.
Yeah, and when you talk about setting that time, Tom, do you like the time that you spend? Do you divide that time into different activities?
Yeah. So the biggest activity, other than posting your own tweets, which I use like Hootsuite and things to schedule it, the other big activity is responding to people. Connection, the social part, right? Like if someone mentions you, responding, if someone asks you a question, responding to those questions. Don't take more than 15 minutes to respond to those questions and respond to your messages because. Don't think about it too much. If you can answer right away, answer a quick message. If you don't know, just say, hey, I don't know, let me check into that, and check back tomorrow and answer it then.
Awesome. And then is part of that also looking for people who would fit your target market? Tom, would that be a part of that 15 minutes?
So it depends. So I do about one connection a day that way in the 15 minutes. So I focus on one person and say, I'm going to find one person today and talk to them. If you want to do 10 or 25 or 50 because you want to do a big thing, that's going to take more time. But I'm talking about kind of the daily habit of what are you going to do every day? What's your strategy every day?
Yeah.
If you had an employee or an assistant and you said you had to give them direct instructions on what to do every day on Twitter, what would you tell them to do in those 15 minutes? And so obviously you can't contact 100 people. That's just not enough time, but you can do one or two a day.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it's the consistency that's key because if you just do Twitter for a month and do 5,000 tweets in 1 month and spend every hour of every day on Twitter and then you quit for the next year, you're not going to be nearly as effective as someone who does those 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, for sure. And then what if someone is wanting to build those influencer relationships that we talked about earlier, Tom? What kind of time should they be dedicating to that?
So, it depends. The way I like to build relationships is over the phone, mostly. And so when I start on Twitter, I'll start and say, hey, Louise, I love what you're doing with your social media summit. I'd love to talk to you about some ways to collaborate, except I try to find a way to make that 140 characters. It would just be like, hey, I love what you're doing on social media. Let's talk about how we can collaborate. That would be a short tweet I could post to you. And then, if you respond to me, I'm going to write back and say, hey, what's the best way to get in touch? And you'll either give me your email or you'll give me your phone number. Then I'll email you or call you, and we'll talk. Oftentimes on Twitter it's an email because people don't want to give out their phone publicly unless it's through like a direct message. So then we'll email and I'll say, hey, Louise, I'd really like to talk more. Why don't we schedule a 10-minute phone call and we'll see how we can work together. And then I'll get on the phone and we'll talk and we'll say, you'll tell me about your business and I'll tell you about mine. And we'll talk about, hey, maybe we both have similar sized email lists. Let's do an email, blast collaboration, or, let's start retweeting each other every day, or let's start, collaborating. Let's start coming up with some way we can help each other. And the more you do that, the more of an influence you're going to have.
Yeah, great.
And so that's not necessarily the 15 minutes on Twitter, but it kind of stems from that. That's how I build my business, by building relationships. So, it's not
so
all
maybe you want to
Twitter.
dedicate.
Kind of an avenue to start.
Yes, and maybe if you're doing something like that as a project, you might put a little bit more time into it.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Really great stuff, Tom. This is really helpful. So we have a question in the chat that I'd love to share with you, Tom. Would it be okay for me to do that now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Donna on the chat has said, I have reached a number of 1,600, and it goes up and down by approximately 10. This has been going on for months. Any suggestions to break through this invisible ceiling? Thanks.
Yeah, so the first thing you have to understand is that on Twitter, you're going to lose followers. Especially when you have over 1,000, you're just going to naturally lose followers.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean anything about you, or it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's just, someone either closes an account, or they stop following you, or they have some kind of software that automates their account or whatever. So don't worry about that. But what I would focus on, again, like I said before, is building those relationships with people in your industry. So, why are you on Twitter in the first place? What are you trying to do? What product or service are you trying to market or sell? And then see who's on Twitter who's already doing a really good job of marketing on Twitter in your niche, and see if you can connect with them and build a relationship with them. And just by mentioning them, you'll probably get a lot of people just follow you just because they saw that you were talking to this other person who had, 40,000 followers or whatever.
It's amazing, isn't it, how that can happen? If you're speaking directly to someone on Twitter, you're not talking about direct messaging, but through a normal tweet, that can have a huge influence. And I've seen tons of people follow me in one day because of that. It's just amazing. So
exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
And one last thing, I know we only have a couple minutes left. I want to share one thing that my favorite strategy that very few people know, but it's amazing. So this is a strategy that even if you're brand new to Twitter today and you don't even have an account, you can start an account right now and start getting sales for your business today. Yeah. And very few people do this. So the first step is you want to go to Twitter search. Now you can either log into Twitter and do search that way, but I find it's not nearly as easy as to use a third-party service. So the service I like is called Twinitor. It's TWINITOR.com. And it's totally free.
Say that again, Tom?
Yes, TWI, like Twitter, and then it's like Twitter Monitor, and then the last letters are NITOR. So TWINITOR.com.
Okay, Twinitor.com. Okay,
and what you can do is it's got a little search box up top, and you type in some words to search. So what you're looking for is you are looking for questions that are unanswered by Twitter users. So let's say, for instance, that you're an attorney. Well, what would someone ask on Twitter publicly if they were looking for an attorney? I'm guessing they might ask something like, hey, does anybody know a good attorney? Does anyone know a good defense attorney? Does anyone have a referral for an attorney? Right? Doesn't that just make sense that someone might theoretically be posting that?
Yes, absolutely.
So what you want to do is you want to search for those questions, but you don't want to search for specific questions word by word, because if you type the whole phrase in, it's not going to find all those words. So what I recommend is just testing different things. So a good search is usually almost always with a question mark. So if you include a question mark, then that means someone's asking a question. So good attorney question mark would be a good search, or good patent attorney question mark, or patent attorney question mark. And this is a great way to find people who are asking questions like that, and they're looking for someone who's a patent attorney. And people tweet like that every single day.
So use an example, Tom, like a health example or a coaching example, just so we can relate it to our businesses.
Right. Sure. So do you know a good health coach? Does anyone know a weight loss coach? Does anyone know a good fitness trainer? Does anyone know a good nutritionist?
Very cool. Now we're talking.
Yeah. And this is so amazing because so few people do this, and so few people respond to these. But what you'll do is every day, if you do this, just takes a couple minutes, you'll find anywhere from 2 to 10 people they're asking those questions. Now, I'm going to tell you, it takes time to test it and tweak it and figure out what to type in the search box and to look through it and to figure out how to do it. But, once you get down to a science, you just have an assistant or do it yourself really quickly, and you'll find new leads every day from people who are looking for you. And so what I recommend, once you see someone asking, like, do you know a good nutritionist? I'm not a nutritionist, but if you were, I would write to them and publicly respond to that tweet and say, hey, I'm a nutritionist. How can I help you? And just answer their questions that way. And guaranteed you're going to get a new Twitter follower. Right? That's guaranteed. And then, are you going to make a sale? A lot of times you will make a sale because, depending on the question being asked, so a lot of times you'll make a sale because the customer's already looking for you.
Yeah, it makes sense. They're actually ready to buy. And so just to be clear, Tom, these are questions that people are answering, are asking on Twitter?
Exactly.
Through twittertour.com?
They're publicly posting it on their Twitter profile. That, someone tweets, does anyone know a good Twitter follower? Or does anyone know, like, a good nutrition coach? And they're asking their followers if their followers know, but it's public, so you can search for that information, find it, and respond to them. You don't have to be their follower to know that.
Awesome. Very cool stuff. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. That's just wonderful, Tom.
Yeah.
So I want to give you just a moment to share a little bit about your gift, Tom, before we close up. And just for everyone to know that I'll be spending a few more minutes with you after we finished with Tom's interview, but just to kind of wrap things up in a nice, neat bow. But Tom, please go ahead and share, what your gift is, so folks can go and download that.
Absolutely. So I've got my ebook. It's called How to Make Money with Twitter. This is kind of the predecessor to my Amazon ebook, which is an international bestseller. It's got all the great information that you need in there about if you're brand new, it actually tells you how to set up a new Twitter account and how to get started that way. How to write tweets. So a lot of people, the biggest question they ask is like, what do I write? What do I tweet if I'm brand new? Well, I've got a whole tweet writing system in there, and you can basically just look at those different kinds of tweets I have and kind of copy and paste and put in your own information. It just makes it really easy for you to get started tweeting if you don't know what to share. And then it goes into a lot more detail about systemizing Twitter, like how do you automate and delegate and systemize, and how do you avoid the tasks that take up so much of people's time? How do you avoid that time suck of Twitter? And then it's just got a lot of other great resources, different third-party sites, things like Hootsuite that I use that just make using Twitter a lot easier, a lot more effective. So it's basically the guide I wish I had when I started with Twitter.
I know. Well, you're making it so much easier for all of these folks listening to this call, Tom, so thank you so much for that. That sounds really valuable. And so just for those listening, if you want to download Tom's gift and you're not signed up with the mini-summit, then go to keystoClarity.com/summit. And if you enter your details in there, you'll have access to Tom's gift as well as the other experts in the series of calls. So that's keystoClarity.com/summit. And Keys to Clarity is spelled KEYSTO, and then Clarity, CLARITY. Okay, so thank you so much, Tom. This has been such an illuminating conversation. I know there's so much to talk about, and we've barely scratched the surface, but I think that we've given some really great information to the people listening, so I want to really thank you for that. And
awesome. Well, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, and, just to give everyone your website as well, Tom, what is that so that people can go and learn more about you as well?
So probably the best one is onlineinternetmarketinghelp.com. That's my blog where I talk about a lot of online marketing strategies, above and beyond Twitter, but blogging and video and all kinds of cool stuff. And then if you're interested in blogging yourself, the blogbusinessschool.com is that free training program for people who want to learn how to blog.
Awesome. That's great. Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Tom. I really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone on this call has really enjoyed all the information you shared with us today, so thank you so much. And feel free to stay on the line or drop off, and again, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so everyone, we are going to just have a couple of observations from the the chats, and if anyone on the call has a comment that they want to make live, you're welcome to do that. You can press 1 on your keypad and share what you're taking away today. But Sherry in the chat says, for 5 years I've worked with health professionals as medical marketing consultant with custom wellness solutions and direct sales. I'm brand new to social media with no followers. Can't ignore social media now. New to all of this. This has been awesome. That's fabulous, Sherry. I'm so glad that you got a lot from this call. Anyone else want to post what their takeaway is on the wall in the chat? That would be great. We'd love to hear that. Tom has shared a lot of great information with us. What I want to highlight is the 3 steps that he has recommended, which is the automate, delegate, and syndicate. And then also, to be doing things that are about educating and sharing what you love with your audience to create and build those relationships, and to do it often. So if it means automating to be able to, have a number of tweets go out a day, that would be a great thing to do. And then just to get started, everyone. So, to, sign up on Twitter, and then if you can link up your Facebook page with Twitter if you're on Facebook, and just have it automatically post through there, so you're not having to spend all your time on it and think of it as a big task to get started. That would be a great way to get started as well. And then also to remember that it's also about connecting with influencers, as Tom called it, influencers. So those are people who are leaders in the field that you are in and want to connect with and collaborate with. Again, it's not looking from that place of competition, but more of collaboration. So that was really powerful. So that is it for our call today. I just want to remind you that if you want to get the recording and to be able to go through this slowly and with some time, because a lot of information was shared, you can do that by going to keystoClarity.com/summit to sign up and get the recording. Or if you want to, if you'd like to get all the interviews and make sure you get what you need from the calls, I'd invite you to consider the upgrade. And there are lots of juicy pieces in the package we've created for the upgrade. So go ahead and take a look and see if that is for you. And that is at keystoClarity.com/summit/upgrade. Let me repeat that. That's keystoClarity.com/summit/upgrade. And as I said, there's a really juicy package and very reasonable investment. And, if you want to be able to take your time listening to the recordings and also getting the transcripts and getting an action workbook and things like that, then it would definitely be worth your while checking out. The recordings are available only for 24 hours, but at least it'll give you a chance to listen if you're able to. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers it for today. I hope that you got what you needed from this call, and I look forward to talking to you again on Saturday, where we're going to be discussing, we'll have 2 interviews. One will be on Pinterest with Donna Moritz. She's calling in from Australia, our expert, and that will be in the middle of the night for her. So I'm really thrilled that she has agreed to do that for us, and it's going to be a fabulous call on really understanding how Pinterest could help us grow our businesses. And it's a new platform, and for those who are very visual and creative, this could be a really exciting prospect. And so many of our followers are actually visual and creative people, so how wonderful to be able to reach them in that way. And then our second call is on Groupon. And, Groupon is a really fabulous way to grow your business. It's there are many pros and cons, to looking at Groupon as a possibility. So you really want to know what you're doing, but when you do know what you're doing and you have the right strategy with Groupon, it can be an amazing way to grow your business. So I really encourage you to come and listen to that, and we actually have an executive from Groupon who is, high up in the food chain in the organization in sales, and so he really knows what he's talking about when it comes to understanding how to use Groupon, and you'll hear all the ins and outs about that. All right, everyone, I hope you had a wonderful, juicy listening time today, and look forward to connecting with you again on Saturday, and look out for those recordings landing in your inbox shortly. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye now.